Hello there, I'm Jamie. Welcome to another session of Vista Export Services. In this session, I'll be taking you through the process of downloading, merging, and inserting GoWood 3D people in your scenes accurately. Also, you'll have a unique insight into the amazing process of adjusting 3D people in post realistically. More often than not, your clients will ask you to add people in your renders or scenes to provide a sense of scale and to help tell a story. For instance, in this penthouse apartment, the client wanted to have a person using one of their sofas and another person interacting with the space. Either that or having someone using the kitchen or the balcony area. There are two ways of doing this. You can use 2D cutout people in post after the render is completed, or you can insert the 3D people in your scene. In this particular exercise, we'll be adding realistic 3D people in the scene using realistic 3D models from GoWood 3 website. To access them, simply Google GoWood 3 and click on their website link. In GoWood 3 website, we have the cutout people library and the 3D people. As mentioned earlier, for this exercise we'll be using the 3D people. Click on the 3D people library. In here, you have a huge selection of 3D models to choose from. To narrow down your search, you can filter the selections by ethnicity, gender, season, age group, activity, level of detail, clothing, or keywords, or simply scroll down the list to choose. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to choose this model here. To download it, simply click on that button. Next, we're going to download this woman here. You can check the 3D model by clicking on those arrows to see different camera angles. Once you've downloaded your models, they should appear as WinZip or WinRAR file in your folder. To extract the content, simply right-click on one of or all the zip files and choose the option to extract here. Once extracted, your files will look similar to these ones in a different file formats. You also have the Maps folder, the 3ds Max follow-up file, and the standard. For this exercise, we'll be using the 3ds Max follow-up file. You can open the file by double-clicking it, or by simply doing it in 3ds Max. Click on the Max button and choose to open. Select the 3ds Max follow-up file and click Open. You should be prompted with a file load, gamma and LUT settings mismatch dialog. Choose to adopt the file's gamma and LUT settings. The 3D file should look similar to this one. Expand the viewport by clicking on this button. Next, to measure the 3D model, click on the Help Us button and select the tape tool. The current units display is in centimeters. You can change it to meters by clicking on the Customize button and choosing the unit setup option. The metric display units is just for display purposes and will not affect the scale of the scene. Instead of displaying the units in centimeters, we will choose the meters option instead. Next, click and drag the tape tool to measure the model. As you can see, his height is around 1.8 meters, about 6 foot tall or thereabouts. The scale of the model seems to be correct. Let's delete the tape tool by pressing delete on your keyboard. To ensure all textures are pointing in the right folder, click on the Max button. Choose the References option from the list and the Asset Tracking. The Asset Tracking dialog should now be prompted. All these location paths should have the OK status as opposed to Found. Otherwise, these textures will be missing once the 3D models is merged into another 3ds Max file. To correct this, simply click on the first link path with the Found status and right-click on it. Choose the option to browse. In the folder, right-click and choose the display option to be Details. Once the texture thumbnail appears in your preview, it's an indication that the texture was found in this folder. Click Open. As you can see, the texture path now has the status of OK, which is great. Let's repeat the same action with the next texture path. Right-click on it and choose the Browse toggle and click Open. Again, as you can see, the texture path now has the status of OK. Let's repeat the same action with the last texture path. The status of the texture path hasn't changed. Let's repeat the same action and select the actual texture in the folder, which is GTT Metal Grey Composite 001 BNP. Click Open to load it. As you can see, the texture path status has now changed, which is great. Next, hold down the Control key on your keyboard and select all 4 texture paths. Right-click and choose the option to resolve path UNC location. This should resolve any future missing texture paths. Next, let's save the file by clicking on the Max button. Choose the option to save as. Name it as _Jamie or any other name you wish and click Save. Close the dialog. Next, go back to your main 3ds Max file. To merge the 3D person, click on the Max button. Go to Import and choose to merge. Even for VivoProxy objects inside another Max file, the process would have been the same. To learn how to proxy objects, simply check one of my 3D courses or free tutorials in my YouTube channel or blog. Select the 3ds Max file we've just saved and corrected the texture paths. The merge dialog should be prompted. Select all objects inside and click OK to merge them all. Here you can see there are 8 objects selected. Next, we're going to group them. To do so, click on the Group toolbar and choose the group. In the Group dialog, rename the group as Man on the Phone and click OK to close the dialog. Next, expand the viewport. Click on the top left viewport and press T on your keyboard to convert the viewport into top. Change the viewport into wireframe by clicking on the text and choosing wireframe mode from the list. To move the group, right-click and choose the Move tool from the quad menu. Move the man into the space and zoom in when necessary. Move the bottom part of the guy so he touches on a wooden floor. To adjust the object's gizmo, open the Hierarchy button. Click on the Effect Pivot Only button. Move the gizmo to the base of the object. Next, click on the Rotate toolbar and the Scale button. This is to ensure the gizmo doesn't jump. Every time you move the pivot point gizmo, always click on those 3 buttons first. So when you move, rotate or scale this object, the gizmo will always be at the base. Once satisfied, click on the Create panel to exit. There's actually a script to automatically adjust the pivot point gizmo to the base of the objects. I'll leave it in the links and descriptions. To measure the merged object, click on the Isolation button first. Click on the Tape tool and measure it as previously done. Exit the isolation by clicking on the button again. Expand the viewport. In the camera viewport, select the guy, right-click and choose the Move tool. Begin moving the object towards the camera and in between the 2 tables. Right-click and choose to rotate. Rotate and move the guy so he's facing the other sofa on the far left side. Because of the number of edge faces being displayed in the viewport, we can't see the textures properly. To correct this, click on the shaded text and click on the Edge Faces option and disable it. Next, let's select the guy and the right group with the Control key and click to isolate. Expand the viewport again. In the front viewport, click Ctrl and R to rotate the viewport. Turn the viewport into shaded and zoom in. Rotate again and zoom in. Move the feet up slightly so it's not too sank into the carpet. Press D on your keyboard to convert the view into top viewport. Convert the viewport back to wireframe. Select the camera viewport and expand it. Reposition the guy a bit more. Exit the isolation. The following step is to merge the woman's setting previously downloaded from GoboTree websites. She'll be sitting on a sofa and looking towards the guy on the phone.